West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Well, the real job of the President of the United States is the part we never see. It's not the speeches. It's not where the cameras are. The real job of the President is making the presidential decision, the decision that only the President can make. All of the important decisions are made after consultation with the President's most trusted advisors, most of whom usually work in the White House, but some of whom could be senators or the Speaker of the House. We learned today that Donald Trump made the most important decision of his presidency after the most unhinged meeting that we know of in the history of the American presidency. A meeting that includes screaming and insults that went on for 6 hours and almost came to blows between a White House lawyer and a deranged retired general who now takes the Fifth Amendment when asked any questions about that meeting. It was after that meeting, according to the evidence presented today at the January 6th hearing, that Donald Trump made the presidential decision to mount and join an attack on the Capitol on January 6th. The meeting began in the Oval Office on the night of December 18th. When the meeting started, only White House outsiders were in the Oval Office with the president. The two lawyers who have since had their licenses to practice law suspended, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, were there, along with the self-confessed criminal, former General Michael Flynn, who was pardoned by Donald Trump to avoid a prison sentence, and the former CEO of Overstock.com, Patrick Byrne. There was no testimony about what Patrick Byrne contributed to the meeting today. 4 days before that meeting, the Electoral College officially voted with Joe Biden winning the clear majority of the votes of the Electoral College. At that point, the top Republican in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, gave a speech finally congratulating Joe Biden on his victory in the presidential election, a victory Joe Biden earned weeks before that. Attorney General William Barr testified to the January 6th committee that as far as he was concerned, the Electoral College vote on December 14th was, quote, the end of the matter. Today, White House counsel Pat Cipollone testified on video recorded on Friday that he believed Donald Trump should then have conceded to Joe Biden after the Electoral College voted. Cipollone testified under oath that Mark Meadows, the White House chief of staff, agreed that Donald Trump should concede to Joe Biden. 2 days after the Electoral College vote, there was a draft executive order written ordering the seizing of voting machines by the Department of Defense and naming Sidney Powell as a special counsel to investigate those voting machines for voter fraud. The unhinged meeting occurred 2 days after that executive order was drafted. Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani did not have a scheduled meeting with the president. They gained access to the White House and the Oval Office from a junior White House staffer. The subject of the meeting was their proposal to have the Department of Defense seize voting machines and to appoint Sidney Powell as a special counsel. Here is the video testimony that the committee used today to tell the story of what happened in the most insane meeting in the Oval Office in the history of the American presidency.
I got a call either from Molly that I need to get to the Oval Office.
So that was the first point that I had recognized, okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there. I was not happy to see the people in the Oval Office.
Explain why.
Well, again, I don't think they were providing. Well, first of all, the overstock person, I've never knew who this guy was. Actually, the first thing I did, I walked in, I looked at him, and I said, "Who are you?" And he told me. I don't think any of these people were providing the president with good advice. And so I didn't understand how they had gotten in.
I was asking, like, you claim the Democrats were working with Hugo Chavez, Venezuelans, and whomever else. And at one point, General Flynn took out a diagram that supposedly showed IP addresses all over the world, and who was communicating with whom via the machines, and some comment about like Nest thermostats being hooked up to the internet.
So it's been reported that during this meeting, Ms. Powell talked about Dominion voting machines and made various election fraud claims that involve foreign countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and China. Is that accurate?
Sure.
Was the meeting tense?
Oh, yeah. It was not a casual meeting.
Explain.
I mean, at times there were people shouting at each other, hurling insults at each other. It wasn't just sort of people sitting around on a couch, like, chit-chatting.
Do you recall whether he raised to Ms. Powell the fact that she and the campaign had lost all of the 60 cases that they had brought in litigation?
Yes, he raised that.
And what was the response?
I don't remember what she said. I don't think it was a good response.
Cipollone and Hirschman and whoever the other guy was showed nothing but contempt and disdain of the president.
Yeah, I remember the three of them were really sort of forcefully attacking me verbally. Derek, and we were pushing back, and we were asking one simple question as a general matter. Where is the evidence? So,
What response did you get when you asked Ms. Powell and her colleagues, where's the
a variety of responses based on my current recollection, including, can't believe you would say something like, things like this, like, what do you mean, where's the evidence? You should know, and things like that, or, a disregard, I would say, a general disregard for the importance of actually backing up what you say with facts.
And, then there was discussion of, well, we don't have it now, but we will have it or whatever.
Derek and I both challenged what she was saying. And she says, well, the judges are corrupt. And I was like, everyone? Every single case that you've done in the country you guys lost, every one of them is corrupt? Even the ones we appointed? And I'm being nice. I was much more harsh to her. I think that it got to the point where the screaming was completely out there. I mean, again, people walk in, it was late at night, it had been a long day, and what they were proposing, I thought was nuts.
I'm gonna categorically describe it as, you guys are not tough enough. Or maybe I put it another way, you're a bunch of excuse the expression, but I'm almost certain the word was used.
Flynn screamed at me that I was a quitter and everything, kept on standing up and turning around and screaming at me. And at a certain point I had it with him. So I yelled back. I had to come over, or sit your effing ass back down.
The president and the White House team went upstairs to the residence, but to the public part of the residence, the big parlor where you can have meetings in the conference room.
Oval? They call that the yellow oval?
Yes, exactly, the yellow oval office. I always called it the upper. And I'm not exactly sure where the Sydney group went. I think maybe the Roosevelt room. And I stayed in the cabinet room, which is kind of cool. I really like that. All by myself.
The official term for those outsiders who were meeting in the Oval Office, the official term among the people who worked in the Trump White House, the term for that group was the crazies. That's what they called them. Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, General Flynn, the crazies had shown up. Apparently, it was all worth it for Rudy Giuliani because he got to sit in the cabinet room all alone. Maybe he even got to sit in the president's chair in the cabinet room, as any child would want to. When the crazies left the building, Donald Trump arrived at his presidential decision. He decided not to order the Department of Defense to seize voting machines. Instead, he ordered his civilian troops to come to Washington. He did that at 1:42 a.m. Donald Trump tweeted, "Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild." The committee presented evidence from a Twitter official about how that specific tweet electrified violent supporters of Donald Trump who relayed the Trump message.
We're going to only be saved by millions of Americans moving to Washington, occupying the entire area, if necessary, storming right into the Capitol. We know the rules of engagement. If you have enough people, you can push down any kind of a fence or a wall.
A Trump-supporting website delivered this message: bring handcuffs and wait near the tunnels, body armor, knuckles, shields, bats, pepper spray, whatever it takes. Join your local Proud Boys chapter as well. The committee obtained a draft tweet by the president that was never sent. That tweet said, "I will be making a big speech at 10 a.m. on January 6th at the Ellipse, south of the White House. Please arrive early. Massive crowds expected. March to the Capitol after." Donald Trump decided it was better to make the march to the Capitol seem to be spontaneous on January 6th, even though we now know it was fully premeditated by the President of the United States. So the committee has established beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump knew the crowd that he personally assembled in Washington on January 6th. The crowd he summoned to Washington on January 6th was equipped with dangerous weapons. And he told that crowd equipped with dangerous weapons to go to the Capitol. And he actually tried to go to the Capitol with them, but the Secret Service, in a showdown with the president in the car after his speech, refused to take him to the Capitol. Next week, the committee will present exactly what Donald Trump was doing and not doing during the attack on the Capitol. Today, the committee showed how strong Donald Trump's influence was over the people attacking the Capitol. Here is Stephen Ayers, one of the nonviolent criminals who entered the Capitol that day and who pleaded guilty to trespassing in the Capitol.
The president issued at 4:17 a tweet, I believe, that included a video telling people to go home. Did you see that, and did that have any effect on what you were doing?
Well, when we were there, as soon as that come out, everybody started talking about it, and it seemed like it started to disperse, some of the crowd. Obviously, once we got back to the hotel room, we seen that it was still going on, but it definitely dispersed a lot of the crowd.
And did you leave at that point?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we left.
So, in other words, that was the key moment when you decided to leave, when President Trump told people to go home.
Yeah, we left right when that come out.
It is Wednesday, the 13th of July of 2022, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef, and our daily special is Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests? No one? Well, the Supreme Court will definitely have a say on, I don't know, indicting a former U.S. president on sedition. I don't know. I just feel it in my bones. They're going to inject themselves somehow, because that's how this court is. And what are we going to do about it? Well, there are some drastic measures that probably will not be taken because they're drastic. Okay. And then when people finally decide that they got to do drastic measures, it'll be too late. But then they'll do the drastic measures and hurt everybody in the process, because that's the way humans are. Yep, that's how it is. Oh, I want to apologize. I had to put up a much longer clip at the top there. Got a little delayed with some care for my mom this morning, some last-minute care. And so, yeah, I think we're fine now. Also, I inadvertently, when grabbing David's show from last year, I grabbed last year's show that was on a Wednesday, but the actual date of the 13th, well, had Joan McCarter because it was a Tuesday. So at the last minute, I had to grab that and get that set up. So there you go. And that's the explanation for the much longer clip at the top, though very pertinent indeed. Unhinged is how they described it, the meeting in the Oval Office and other parts. They even went into the residence, yelling, threats of hitting each other. Yeah, you would expect that. I guess, apparently, Trump loved that. A team of rivals. Really? That's a team? Yeah. And then somehow, just looky-loos are able to get into the Oval Office. They just go in there unannounced. No appointment needed, apparently. Don't even really have to put it on the book, though it got put on the book, and that's how we know they were there. But they weren't on the book before, just showed up. Here, let me in. Junior staffer lets them in because that's what junior staffers are supposed to do. All right. So there's that. There's a lot of examples of executive types really failing at their executiving. There we go. Because I'm reminded of the Uvalde mayor and city council calling the media chickachits. Why? Because they released the video, the security cam video of the cops putting on hand sanitizer while the screams of kids being slaughtered were actually blocked out. I don't blame the Texas Tribune and the TV station, I think it's KVUL, for blocking that sound because, yeah, we get it. On the other hand, makes you wonder how someone so heavily armed can just stand there. I mean, one guy was using his gun as a touch point cursor type thing on his phone. And guess what he had on his screen lock? The Punisher symbol. Yeah, that guy's a real Punisher. Of course, anybody who needs that stuff is not a Punisher. And, because if you're a Punisher, you don't need to put the Punisher symbol on because you're already a Punisher. You don't need to tell anybody about it or remind yourself that you want to be. Because wannabes stand around while 20 kids and their teacher, or more kids and their teachers, are being slaughtered, and their screams are just filling the space. It'll be quiet soon, don't worry. Just wait. Is that what it was? Who What kind of effing obstacle course do they put these guys through? Oh, I know what it is. They all fought in battle zones. Didn't need to have any kind of decompression interview after they came back from the battle zone. Just put them right into being a cop. The screams of dying children and women, that's normal where I come from. Apparently. But I don't know. Maybe you have to be callous to do that job, I guess. You can't get emotional just because of a bunch of kids screaming because they're being slaughtered by rapid gunfire. But you can text and answer texts and put on hand sanitizer. Even look at the vending machine for what you might want to get while the kids are getting slaughtered. I think I'll get myself a candy bar. Hey, Rick, you got 50 cents? Oh, wait a second. I need $1. You got $1? These candy bars cost $1 now. Jesus. So the mayor and the city council said that the release of that video for human consumption was a chicken shit move. Why are they hiding the fact that they effed up? They just should come out, admit the mistake, rectify the mistake. But no, they have this myth that we make no mistakes, and anybody who tries to catch us in a mistake is a commie pedophile, and we're going to burn you at the stake. That's what authoritarians do, apparently, and this chicken shit mayor in Uvalde and his chicken shit council ought to take a lesson in humanity, but they don't have any speck of humanity to be able to grow upon, apparently. Another thing we need to remind ourselves is that the average resident of Uvalde is a 37-year-old Latina woman. All right? Let's be clear about that. And that city council is all white. It's Ferguson. They're living off the backs of those hard-working people there, charging them exorbitant tickets for broken taillights. Speeding through a speeding trap somewhere. Whatever it is, they do it just like Ferguson. As this is endemic across, white America, preying upon the backs of hard-working American citizens who just don't happen to be white. And if they are, they're of a class economically that we might as well take advantage of them, because look at what losers they are. Is that what it is? The winners get to bully the losers and make money off of them? Sheesh. No wonder we can't prosecute that. No wonder we can't level charges against Trump for being the biggest bully in the world. You can't charge the bully. Yeah, you can. You go up there and you punch the Nazis. Punch them in the wallet. That's what I say. Defund the Nazis. Look, even the J6 committee hearing yesterday with the Oath Keeper and the Proud Boy, the Oath Keeper guy. You started off as a journalist. Yeah, Hunter Thompson. Yeah, I read his book on the Hells Angels, so I thought I'd embed myself with the Proud Boy or the Oath Keepers. One thing that you need to remember about Hunter Thompson, he got the shit kicked out of him by the Hells Angels, and he really couldn't wait to get away from them. Okay? He didn't then become part of them, but, Another thing is that Hunter Thompson, might have had some libertarian views, but he wasn't really an authoritarian. Really? I mean, please. All you have to do is read his, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. Las Vegas is one thing. You should read the Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail of 76 or 68 and 72. 2 volumes. That's right. It It was Hunter Thompson that floated the satirical parody rumor that Muskie was on some sort of African hallucinogen, and that's why he acted the way he did. And the Beltway press took that up as if it was God-given fact and ran with it. Muskie's on hallucinogens from Africa. I just remember that. It's like Hunter Thompson said that. He's like pulling your leg. And he was. But when you looked at Muskie, he did look like he was on some sort of monkey hallucinogen. I don't know. So, yes. Okay. Well, look at the time. We might as well then get into what we have as a curated part of the show. There's enough to rant about indeed. But we did take the time last night to put a show together, so we might as well get right into it. So, as we begin here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Republicans are threatening Wall Street over climate positions and other politically sensitive national issues. Yeah, they're pulling a DeSantis, like DeSantis went after Disney and other companies that didn't toe the line. The Justice Department named Colette Peters, the director of Oregon's prison system, to run the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And the Idaho lame duck MAGAt Lt Governor gave a huge pay raise to her assistant so as to deplete the office's budget and hamstring her successor. All right. After the break, we move to the chef's table where a new pipeline from Greece to Bulgaria will offset the Russia gas cut. And it's going to be difficult for the Moonies to distance themselves from Abe's assassination since Japan is their major cash cow. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. We are going to forego the usuals and just tuck right into this first offering here on the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Remember, save room. There's still the chef's table. And on this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is out of the Washington Post by Stephen Muffson. Republican officials across the country, tearing a page from the ongoing culture wars, are launching a broad assault on the movement by big financial firms to use their economic power to curb climate change and address other politically sensitive national issues. In recent years, big finance companies have used their clout to advance causes that are popular among liberals, like saving the planet, making sure we have clean water, clean air, being humans. And apparently that's a liberal cause. Only conservatives want everyone to die, in this reporter's opinion. The giant asset manager BlackRock, for instance, has voted against the candidacies of hundreds of corporate board members over their lackluster records on climate issues and called climate change a defining factor in companies' long-term prospects. You know why? Because actuaries crunched the numbers and found out, we're going to have a lot less property and a lot more beachfront. And the beachfront's going to be eroding. Come on. All right. Even though the positions don't satisfy many left-leaning activists, GOP officials are intensifying their counteroffensive, attacking the campaigns often referred to as environmental social governance, or ESG, by threatening to retaliate against financial firms for their positions on the climate and other issues, including firearms sales. State officials are moving more swiftly, though. This spring, Kentucky lawmakers voted to empower state officials to stop doing business with any firm that says it will not invest in fossil fuels. The move drew praise from other Republican officials, although the state has not penalized a firm yet. Kentucky joins our growing coalition of states that have taken concrete steps to push back against the woke capitalists who are trying to destroy our energy industries, West Virginia Treasurer Riley Moore said after Kentucky adopted the legislation. Woke capitalists? You know why that sounds very familiar as a pejorative? Because the Nazis invoked the capitalist as some sort of evil empire. Because certain companies didn't toe the line to exclude Jews. They didn't toe the line of the Nazi goose-stepping order. And what happened to them? They got labeled woke capitalists. And if they weren't lined up against the rock pile, they were put on a train. Michael DeSalmo and Michael R. Sisak of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The Justice Department named Colette Peters, the director of Oregon's prison system, to run the Federal Bureau of Prisons, turning to a reform-minded outsider as it seeks to rebuild the beleaguered agency. Peters, who championed steeply reducing the state's inmate population in the last decade, will inherit a federal agency plagued by myriad scandals. Her hiring comes about 7 months after Bureau of Prisons Director Michael Carvajal submitted his resignation amid mounting pressure from Congress after investigations by the Associated Press exposed widespread corruption and misconduct in the agency. In an interview with the AP, Peters stressed the importance of working to, quote, create an environment where people can feel comfortable coming forward and talking about misconduct, end quote. When she officially begins her role on August 2nd, Peters will become only the second director in the agency's history with no prior experience in the federal prison system. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, who led the search for the new director, had been looking for someone who was focused on reforming an agency that has had cultural issues for decades. Don't let her pull a Brubaker. She'll never get out. Peters praised the values and missions of the Bureau of Prisons, pointing to the need for correctional systems to prioritize the principles of normalcy and humanity, and vowed to put the wellness of officers at the forefront of her priority list. Peters, though, did not directly address whether she has a plan to fix the slew of problems at the Bureau of Prisons. An agency that employs more than 30,000 people, has an annual budget of about $8 billion, including sexual abuse by correctional officers, rampant criminal conduct by staff, dozens of escapes, deaths, and critically low staffing levels that have hampered responses to emergencies. Peters said she would be remiss if she addressed the allegations before she was in place and fully briefed on the agency's operations. Keith Riddler of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Lame duck Republican Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin has given a big pay boost to an administrative assistant who is also a top Idaho Republican Party official in a move that could hinder the ability of the next lieutenant governor by significantly depleting the office's budget before January's power transition. McGeachin, in an email on Monday, informed the Idaho Division of Financial Management that Michelle Hamilton would go from part-time to full-time and jump from $20,000 to $77,000 annually. Her hourly pay is an increase from $20 an hour to about $37 an hour. Her title in the new role is Director of Strategy and Constituent Services. She is also the first vice chair of the Idaho Republican Party. Hamilton is making about $30,000 more than McGeachin's former chief of staff, Jordan Waters, who resigned in March when McGeachin would not stay within last year's budget. It's not clear why Hamilton is being paid so much more than Waters, whose chief of staff duties would likely have included everything in the title Hamilton was given. I think we can surmise why she's doing it. Now, Hamilton answered the phone for McGeachin's office yesterday, Tuesday afternoon, but said McGeachin was not available, and she declined to comment about her employment in the office. It's not exactly clear when Hamilton started her new position. The Idaho Controller's Office lists June 17th as her last day as an administrative assistant in McGeachin's office. Lawmakers each year consider raises for state workers, this year approving raises of more than 7%. Raises beyond that for state agency workers must go through an administrative process with the Idaho Division of Human Resources that considers reasons and merits before possible approval. Hamilton's raise from what Waters was making is about a 64% increase. And it turns out that McGeachin can do whatever she wants while she's lieutenant governor because she's just staffing her office, and if they don't like it, she's allowed to hire outside contract work, which she's already done. So, the fiscally responsible thing to do when you're a MAGAt is to bankrupt your office and leave nothing for your successor. In other words, the shelves will be bare. All right, that brings us to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, when truth is scarier than fiction, sometimes the baddest, most memorable villains come from real life. James Whitey Bulger is a perfect example. Bulger became one of the most notorious and powerful underworld figures in the Northeast thanks to his alliance with the local FBI branch. Black Mass, which is based on the book by the same name, looks at that alliance between Bulger and the corrupt FBI agent John Conley, played by Joel Edgerton in a decidedly unglamorous role. Unlike money mob movies, Black Mass doesn't waste time on backstories that aren't relevant. This is smart on the part of director Scott Cooper because there is enough material here for several movies. However, by focusing squarely on Bulger and his rise and eventual fall, the movie has a fast-paced feeling to it that belies the fact it is 122 minutes. While Cooper and the film editor deserve credit for this, Johnny Depp also deserves recognition for his mesmerizing performance as Bulger. While Depp is arguably one of the best actors of his generation, many of his recent over-the-top performances have left audiences cold. This one does not. Bulger's creepiness comes from his subtlety. Depp, who was well known for getting into character, collaborated with longtime makeup artist Joel Harlow to physically become Bulger, right down to his ice blue eyes, which are as cold and unflinching as a Boston winter night. He rarely raises his voice and instead prefers to let his actions speak for him. He's a psychopath in the truest sense of the word and commits some of the most chilling on-screen murders in recent cinematic history, even though very little actual violence is shown. While Black Mass may not be the best crime movie of all time, it is nonetheless very good and reminds us that award season is here. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and feed us back on the Take Two Movie Review page on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Karen Hopkin. They say you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. But what if you had access to a remote-controlled carnivorous plant? Because researchers have engineered a bio-inspired system, an artificial neuron, if you will, that can trigger the snap of a Venus flytrap.
Hi, my name is Simone Fabiano, an associate professor at Linköping University in Sweden.
Fabiano designed the trap-springing device using nerve cells as a kind of bio-based blueprint.
The way our biological neurons work is that they integrate information from different input over time, perform computation, and communicate the results to other neurons by means of voltage pulses.
Now, standard silicone-based systems can also deliver electrical pulses, but if you want to couple them with something living to produce bionic prosthetics or engineer any kind of brain-machine interface, well, they suffer from several limitations.
Such as rigidity, poor biocompatibility, complex circuit structures, and operation mechanisms that are fundamentally different from those of biological systems.
To smooth biological integration, Fabiano built his system from polymers that conduct both electrons, like everyday electronics, and ions, which is how neurons get things done. It's the ions that
enable communication between biological and artificial neurons.
Each part of the artificial neuron, which the researchers describe in the journal Nature, has a direct counterpart in its biological role model.
We have an input terminal that acts as the biological neuron's dendrite.
That dendrite collects the incoming electrical signals and sends them to a capacitor, which, like a neuronal cell body, integrates the information. Then, once the voltage reaches a specific threshold, a pulse is fired along organic amplifiers that mimic a nerve cell axon.
We use the ionic concentration-dependent switching characteristics of our transistors to modulate the frequency of spiking, which is to a large extent analogous to biological systems.
So, the ions control the current that flows from the faux neuron to its target, in this case a live Venus flytrap, triggering the rapid-fire closure of its leafy appendages. All in all, a dramatic demonstration of the potential of neuromorphic design that should give interested engineers and interloping fruit flies something to watch out for. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Karen Hopkin.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Nemhauser, filling in for your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. As the U.S. population ages, more people are at risk for injuries. The largest percentage of injury-related deaths among this group are caused by falls. Elizabeth Burns is with CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. She's joining us today to discuss ways to prevent injuries and deaths from falls among senior adults. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
Elizabeth, what are some of the more common consequences when a senior adult falls?
Well, first, it's important to note that falls are incredibly common. More than 1 in 4 older adults will fall in a given year. Common consequences include loss of independence and an increased fear of falling, as older adults are afraid to do the same kinds of activities they were doing before. And this can actually lead to more falls, as older adults have less strength in their lower body. Common consequences include hip fracture and traumatic brain injury, and ultimately, in 2016, almost 30,000 older adults died because of a fall.
So are falls more common in men or in women?
Falls are more common in women, and more women go to the emergency department because of a fall, and more women die because of a fall. However, the rate of fall deaths are more common in men than women. What this means is that out of 100,000 men, more will die from a fall than out of 100,000 women.
What are common causes of falls among older people?
Getting on and off the toilet and getting in and out of bed are common causes of falls. Walking around the hallways at night when the lights are off is a common way people fall. There's also an increased amount of medications used in seniors, which have side effects like making them lightheaded, and that increases the risk of falls and is a common cause.
With all of those factors, what are some ways our listeners can decrease their chances of falling?
Older adults should talk to their healthcare provider or doctor about how they can decrease their chances of falling. This can be done during the annual wellness visit or during annual physicals. The doctor will recommend an exercise program that should increase strength and balance or maybe refer you to a physical therapist. Additionally, they can look through your medications and perhaps reduce your doses or suggest medications that decrease your chances of falls.
Are there things we can do to modify our homes to prevent falling?
Oh, absolutely. Installing grab bars on the side of the toilet, making sure that rugs are taped down or removed, making sure that there's lighting in the hallways are all really simple ways that an older adult can modify their home to prevent falls.
Where can listeners go to get more information about preventing falls?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/steady, and that's spelled STEADI.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I've been talking today with Elizabeth Burns about ways to prevent fall-related injuries and deaths among senior adults. Improving strength and agility through regular exercise and removing potential obstacles in the home can help decrease the risk for falls. If you or a loved one is older and struggle with mobility, talk with a healthcare provider about ways to decrease the risks for fall-related injuries and death. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Jeffrey Nemhauser for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
This is 60 Seconds Civics from the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. One key to understanding inalienable rights, as distinguished from ordinary alienable rights, is found by turning to one of Thomas Jefferson's rough drafts of the Declaration of Independence. There, he originally wrote that all men are endowed by their Creator with inherent and inalienable rights. Shortly before Jefferson wrote those words, the Virginia Declaration of Rights stated that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, namely, the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. The similarity of this passage in the Virginia Declaration and Jefferson's version is readily apparent. The Virginia Declaration defines inherent rights as those that all men cannot divest their posterity. The key words here are inherent and cannot. The rights Jefferson calls both inherent and inalienable are those that we are unable to get rid of, for the simple reason that they are part of us, helping to define what we are. That's all for today's podcast. 60 Seconds Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1905. That was the day that revolutionary black scholar W.E.B. Du Bois helped found the Niagara movement. It was named for the mighty current of change the group hoped to bring about. The initial organizing meeting was held near Niagara Falls, New York. During the Reconstruction period after the Civil War, African Americans had an unprecedented level of freedom. They were also involved in politics, winning elections for local and state political offices. However, when Reconstruction ended, those gains were quickly rolled back. W.E.B. Du Bois was one of the more prominent African Americans who opposed Jim Crow laws, which strictly enforced racial segregation in the South. At the organizing conference of the Niagara movement, the group drafted a Declaration of Principles. Foremost among these was a demand for voting rights for black Americans. Another principle concerned labor rights. The declaration read, "We hold up for public execration the conduct of two opposite classes of men. The practice among employers of importing ignorant Negro American laborers in emergencies and then affording them neither protection nor permanent employment, and the practice of labor unions in prescribing and boycotting and oppressing thousands of their fellow toilers simply because they are black." This point recognized that the refusal of many unions to include black workers limited black economic opportunities. Managers pitted workers against one another along the lines of race to undercut worker solidarity and power. The Niagara movement continued until 1908. That year, a race riot by white residents of Springfield, Illinois, the hometown of Abraham Lincoln, left 8 black residents dead. In response, Du Bois founded an interracial organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which still exists today. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 66 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs considerably cooler than yesterday, where we topped out on the front side of the mothership at 106 degrees Fahrenheit. We are expecting highs in the low to mid 90s today, which will be quite a respite. Some sunshine to start, which is what we have at the moment, and then a few afternoon clouds. Well, those afternoon clouds look like morning clouds to me. And winds will be out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And I got to tell you, it seems a little bit more in velocity than that at this very moment, which is good. Clear skies overnight with lows in the upper 50s to low 60s, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10, and mainly sunny skies tomorrow with highs once again in the low to mid 90s. Winds will be picking up out of the west-northwest to 10 to 15 miles per hour. Our confirmed cases of coronavirus have not been updated, and we expect an update on Friday. So we will forego those numbers since they get so tiresome, don't they? I should remind folks, it's not over. The BA5 variant is coming to get you if you don't look out. So boosters and do all the other social distancing. Wash your hands and wear a mask wherever you are. Grass pollen is rated high right outside the window here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region is in the good range and has come down into an even more good range at 24 parts per million, and that daytime UV index remains very high at level 9. Take care. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 29.97 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 68%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. London is 82 degrees and sunny. Paris is a sweltering 97 degrees and sunny, and this is the time of year where they get a bit humid just in time for the tour. Oh, happy pre-Bastille Day, or do you call it Bastille Day Eve? We shall find out. Rome is 88 and fair. Kyiv is 60 degrees with a light rain shower. Kabul is 74 and clear. Hong Kong is 85 degrees and fair. Tokyo is 75 and cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 50 degrees with rain. San Francisco, California is 60 degrees and cloudy with another fog advisory on the bay, so take care. And New York, New York is 86 degrees Fahrenheit and fair. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Staff at the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The leaders of Greece and Bulgaria mark the completion of a new pipeline that will supply natural gas from Azerbaijan to Bulgaria, whose vital supply of Russian gas was cut off in April amid the fallout over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis stressed the importance of the new link as an alternative supply for Bulgaria as neighboring Greece jockeys to become a regional energy transport hub. This is not just a gas pipeline, but a crucial south-north energy bridge, Mitsotakis said during a ceremony in northeastern Greece. He added that Europe needs to coordinate its response to Moscow's conscious choice to turn natural resources into a lever of political pressure into a raw blackmail.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Yuri Kajiyama of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Unification Church confirmed the mother of the man accused of assassinating former Japanese Prime Minister Abe is a member and said it was cooperating with the police investigation into possible motives. Police say the suspect, Tetsuya Yamagami, told investigators he wanted to kill Abe because of his apparent connection to an organization. Some Japanese media gave his mother's donations to the church and her subsequent bankruptcy as a motive for the assassination. The head of the Unification Church's Japan branch, Tomira Horatanaka, declined to comment on the specifics of the donations. Speaking in generalities, he confirmed some people have made generous donations, but stressed none was forced. Also known as the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, the church was founded in South Korea by the late Sun Myung Moon. It is known to have hundreds of thousands of followers in Japan. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver.